Well, let's do should we do a test? Testing 1, 2, 3, and then.
I don't see why.
Okay. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the emotional guidance system. So our emotions, we could say, well, what is the purpose of our emotions? And our emotions are actually there to help guide us to stay in alignment with our true self. And by true self, I mean that part of ourselves that's always already here, that's always in its ease, that's always connected to source, God, Goddess, the divine, isness, beingness, whatever words you want to put on it. And that's always connected to a sense of ease, joy, love, freedom, those kind of happiness. And the reason that we always, like the human...
So your system works as long as your true self or yourself is defined that way.
So, well, I don't know if it's my system, but I would say this is my experience of how it is.
Great.
I mean, and again, it's words are limiting, give us some limitations on how to talk about truth. Truth is really not something you can actually fully and clearly define with words. And also, the way we conceptualize things, words are there to help the mind conceptualize things. And so this is my best attempt in this moment to talk about what I understand about the emotional guidance system. And for me, it's been a huge breakthrough because I think I was somebody who knew that the mind can have limitations of illusion around what's true and what's not true, the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening. But I think I always gave my emotions more, I trusted my emotions maybe more than my thoughts. So I gave them a lot of power. And maybe it's partly because my mother was a psychologist, but I really, I was good at kind of analyzing these things, but I found often analyzing can just be kind of like being that hamster on the wheel where you just keep spinning around trying to analyze and understand, and you think you figure it out, and then a similar situation arises and you find yourself stuck in the same spinning out again. So, I learned many years ago, back in the 80s, I was in a type of therapy where you use breath, sound, and movement, like what we use in Tantra, where it was really about going into the body to find and release the blocks in the body. I found that was much more helpful than trying to analyze my emotions with the mind. But I think I still gave them a lot of power. So what I've learned now about the emotional guidance system is the emotions are simply there to guide us in being able to stay aligned with our true self. So that what we can think of as positive emotions like happiness, joy, love, freedom, a sense of ease, a sense of excitement, passion, feeling, creativity, moving through us, all those kind of qualities that we kind of associate with feeling.
That are more pleasurable.
Positive kind of emotional qualities. Or really they're positive because they're aligned with what we truly are. That's why they feel good. We're in the flow of our natural way of being, our true self. Whereas we could say...
The way we like ourselves the best.
I don't even know if it's the way we like ourselves the best, because you could like yourself. It's not even about this. When I say the true self, I don't mean the person, the body, mind person. I mean what you essentially are, which is, I would say, awareness, the space of awareness. So it's not really about so personal, although for most of us, we take our emotions very personally. So,
yes.
So I wouldn't say it's about how you like yourself the best, but it's what the places with emotionally where we feel good because they are aligned with our natural state of being. That's why they feel good. Whereas the emotions we think of as more negative, like anger, fear, jealousy, sadness, grief, confusion, doubt, anxiety, depression, those kind of emotional states, the reason they don't feel good is because they're out of alignment with our true nature. And so these those rumble strips that we have on the side of the highway, this was the big aha I had fairly recently, was that I realized that those rumble strips are there simply to let us know we're veering off the road, or we're veering into head-on traffic.
The rumble strips are like those emotions you just were describing.
Yeah. So the rumble strips are the.
You veer off and you go, oh, depression, anxiety, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, exactly. So our what we call the negative emotions are simply these rumble strips. They're there to get our attention. They're there to say, warning, warning, you're veering out of alignment with your true nature. You're getting, you're going too far out of alignment with what you really are. And so they're really there just to help us get back on track. And yet what happens oftentimes is we get so caught up in the emotion that it's like as if we were trying to get down onto the pavement and analyze those rumble strips. Like the rumble strips are simply there to get us back on the road. We don't need to sit there and get down and analyze them and microscopically and ask all the questions about why are they there and why do they look like this and why are they so deep and why are they in this place and not as
in that caused place. That one?
Yeah, exactly. So it's really helpful when you realize that the emotions are there as a rumble strip to get our attention basically and to say, oh, somehow right now in this moment I'm believing a thought that's not true. I'm holding a belief that's not true. I'm somehow getting out of alignment with my true nature.
Or to put it in Byron Katie language, I'm believing a thought that's painful.
That's another way of saying it. I'm believing a thought that's creating suffering. Pain.
Right. To put it in a Buddhist perspective.
Yeah, from a Buddhist perspective, yeah, it would be suffering. So rather than focus on the story of what created the suffering, which can then just lead to more suffering and then trying to find reasons and control things, it's simply to look within. What am I believing right now that's creating this suffering? What is the thought that's creating the pain? What is the belief I'm holding that's out of alignment with what's true? That's why it's creating this suffering. And then when you kind of dive beneath the emotions to the deeper truth underneath there and see what the belief is or what the thought is, then by simply shifting that thought or that belief, we can suddenly come back into our ease. And it doesn't require anybody else outside of ourselves to change. It doesn't require us to change the circumstances. And then we realize that what powerful creators we are and how we can really bring ourselves very effortlessly, with a practice maybe. It might take some time, or might appear to take some time, but we can begin to consistently bring ourselves back into our ease versus finding ourselves constantly running into these rumble strips, and then getting lost in the story about them. Because so often people, when we get into these emotions, we want to just give them so much power and attention, and then we feel victimized often by the emotions and thinking that we can't feel good unless, our lover changes or our boss changes or we get a better house or we get a new car or whatever the situation is that's creating the suffering. So instead, when we hit that rumble strip, anger arises, I'm upset with you because you showed up late. I can say, right now I'm believing something about the fact that you're showing up late, which is probably some story I have, like I must not be important to you, or you don't care, or something about where I'm making a story about you that makes me feel uncomfortable, rather than just going like, right now in this moment you're not showing up at the time I was expecting you. So I can turn that into a big problem and make a whole story about it that creates anger or fear. Because also we have sort of our favorite go-to emotions. Like some people tend to go to anger, some people go to fear, some people go to sadness. I could feel abandoned by the fact you didn't show up. I could feel angry by the fact that you didn't show up. I could feel fear, like, oh my God, you've been in a car accident. We can make all these stories up, and we can pick the emotion kind of that we go to, or we can be more just like, okay, right now I've got some space to do something else until you show up or until I hear from you. Or I could just call you and see what's going on, and so when I notice whatever the emotion is that arises, whether it's anger, fear, sadness, I could say, something's out of alignment right now. Let me see how I can look at this in a different way, from a place of ease, of abundance, of joy, or, it's like I could feel happy, like, instead of having to stop what I've been doing to be with you, I can keep doing it until you show up. So it's a way to
guide your emotions.
To guide our emotions. And it also doesn't mean that we don't, like we push the emotions down. It's not like, oh, I'm feeling angry, that must be out of alignment, I don't want to feel angry. It's like, notice that you're feeling the anger. Move the anger if you need to. Sometimes it's helpful to like move your body or do emotional release work, which I could talk about in another video. So we can move the energy, but ultimately it's about looking beneath that. Like moving the energy just helps you release the energy of the emotion, which helps you move back into ease just naturally, because emotions can really have
they want to,
there are a lot of energy there. So sometimes you need to move the energy to get back in enough ease that you can look what's beneath it. Right. And then once you look, you can see, what is this thought that I'm believing that's creating the emotion, or what's the belief underneath the thought? And then I can see what's more true. What's more true about this? So I don't need to have a thought that's creating this pain. I can change the thoughts, because thoughts are very transitory. They can really shift. Beliefs tend to be more, beliefs are thoughts that have become more concretized into a certain kind of pattern. So they take a little bit more to kind of shift, but it can be very helpful. Like if you have a belief that somehow people aren't trustable, and every time something happens that's kind of maybe not expected, you say, see, people aren't trustable. You keep reinforcing that belief. So as we begin to notice what are the beliefs that we have that are out of alignment with what's true, then we discover that, like I don't have to take these things personally. I'm already safe, I'm already whole, I'm already complete. I don't need to be constantly reinforced by somebody outside of myself to feel that I'm safe or worthy or whole or in my ease. I'm not looking to external conditions to somehow be okay, which is really
that's very empowering.
Yeah, it's hugely empowering, because suddenly now I'm the creator of my own reality versus feeling like I'm the victim of my circumstances. And I think when you begin to shift that from feeling sort of like a victim of your circumstances to the creator of your reality, you really move from being somebody who feels limited and separate and vulnerable and insecure to someone who feels safe, whole, powerful, and secure in their reality.
Right.
So that's the benefit
really
of the emotional guidance system, and why those emotions are rumble strips, just helping you get back into alignment with your truth. So thank you. That's all for now.
Right on. That was great.
Yay.